Hello, guys. Today I want to talk about one of the speeches that was made last week during the 80th anniversary of the United Nations General Assembly. Yes, that was the speech by President Ruto of Kenya. You see, I like to listen to his speech in particular. Of all African presidents, is one of the ones I really like to listen to, and it's because his speeches are never the kind of speeches that are threatening at the same time begging. See, this is what I see many African presidents do. They are threatening and begging at the same time. It does, for me, I don't think those speeches will get the results that they think they want. Okay? It's unfortunate that we are where we are, and see, we can't be threatening the people we want to change the system for us at the same time begging. It doesn't work. Anyway, I want to talk about his speech this last week. The speech is about 30 minutes, so I'm going to talk about only one section of the speech at the end of it, because that part of the speech is what I'm most interested in at this time. So his speech from beginning, his speech talked about the failure of the League of Nations before World War II. He went on to talk about the successes by the peacekeeping force from Kenya working in Haiti, even though it was highly underfunded. He went on to talk about the global conflicts, Israel, Palestine, Sudan, Russia, and Ukraine, and all that. And then he talked about climate change and climate action. He talked about all these things. Okay, see, the way he talks, for me, he talks like a person who has vision and know how to interact with the powerful forces. Okay, I see that from him. He went on to talk about development finance, and that's what I want to, the part of the speech I want to review, where he talked about the IMF, the World Bank, and then went on to talk about what Africa is doing, because we are not getting the kind of help we want from the IMF and World Bank. So let's go and listen to him, okay?
Aftermath of World War II, the Bretton Woods institutions were created to stabilize the global economy and rebuild war-torn Europe. At that time, their design reflected the power and interest of the victorious nations, who were also their primary shareholders and beneficiaries. The IMF was tasked with upholding the gold standard exchange rate system, while the World Bank was established to finance Europe's reconstruction. Both have since evolved into development finance institutions, but their structures, decision-making, and governance remains dominated by wealthy nations. Today, the global context is vastly different. The global standard collapsed 5 decades ago, and Europe has long since been rebuilt. Yet, the governance of these institutions has not kept pace with needs of a multipolar world, especially the needs of poor and developing nations. The mismatch between shareholders and stakeholders has become starkly visible. For instance, during the IMF's recent allocation of special drawing rights, 64% went to wealthy nations. Just imagine, 64%. With little need for liquidity support. They didn't need the money anyway, but they got 64%. While the poorer countries received just 2.4%. What a disconnect. The imbalance highlights how the very institutions meant to safeguard global finance stability often perpetuate inequality and instability. I have argued, and I say it again, that the current global financial architecture punishes poor countries with high interest rates and enormous conditionalities while rewarding rich nations with lower interest rates and softer lending rates.
Wow. This is, you see, in one of the videos I made a few weeks ago, where President Obasanjo was having a fireside chat at the last free trade event in Tunisia. He mentioned that thing that he was told that those institutions were not made for Africa, and that's true. Now, what President Ruto is saying is that now the initial purpose of those institutions have been fulfilled, and then they have expanded their domain, that the purpose of that those two institutions should have also expanded to accommodate the needs of the new countries they are working to help. Because what these institutions have shown is that they're not working to help those countries in the way their organizations are structured and make the decision-making process is not adequate to deal with the things these other countries are facing. And I do agree. I do agree. And that's why either these organizations adapt, or we need to adapt in terms of finding other solutions. Yes, we cannot be begging them or asking them to change. No, see, we have been doing that for a long time. That hasn't happened. So that means we need to find other solutions. Okay, so let's continue.
Its rules, priorities, and allocation mechanisms consistently favor those already prosperous, while trapping vulnerable economies in cycles of debt, high borrowing costs, and inadequate access to emergency support and concessional funding. It is imperative to transform these institutions into genuinely independent, apolitical global bodies that their operations are aligned with their global mandate. Such a shift would democratize decision-making, restore credibility, and allow the IMF and the World Bank to serve all countries fairly rather than reinforcing old hierarchies.
So this is what I was saying earlier, okay, these organizations are not ready to change, okay? And the truth of the matter is this, we cannot force them. So we need to find a different solution. Let's see what they have come up with.
But Africa is not merely waiting for external prescriptions. We are taking bold and deliberate steps to strengthen our financial independence, safeguard our stability, and accelerate our development. Kenya, for instance, fully endorses the establishment of the Alliance of African Multilateral Financial Institutions, launched with the Africa Union in February 2024. This alliance brings together our homegrown banks, Afrexim Bank, the Africa Finance Corporation, the Trade and Development Bank, Shelter Afrique, Africa RE, Africa Development Bank, Africa Trade and Investment Development Insurance, and ZEPRI, institutions that embody Africa's determination to mobilize resources, finance trade, and build resilience on our own terms. At the same time, the Africa Union is championing 3 transformative institutions: the Africa Central Bank, which will issue a single currency and free our trade from dependence on foreign money; the Africa Monetary Fund, positioned to stabilize our economies and give us true financial sovereignty; and the Africa Investment Bank, designed to mobilize resources for infrastructure, industrialization, and integration that Africa needs to rise. And to complete this vision, the Africa Credit Rating Agency, one that understands our realities, values our uniqueness, and tells our story with fairness and truth, has already been established.
Okay, wow. Wow. This is good. He just listed several initiatives that African countries have come together to establish, to do what the IMF and World Bank has refused to do for us. That's good. See, like I've said every time in my videos, see, we are where we are. Let's accept it. We are where we are. Now, to come out from where we are, yes, these big countries, more economically powerful countries, can help us if they want to, or they can decide not to help us. But we cannot continue waiting for them to help us. See, the key for success of a country is there. Many countries have used the key. We in Africa can also use those keys. The keys are not hidden. They are openly available. All we need to do is to sit down and decide where we want to go, and in conjunction, because there are very few African countries that can do it alone. No, very few. Maybe Nigeria, Egypt, South Africa, maybe Kenya, but the vast majority of African countries cannot do it alone. So yes, it's good to work together, but for me, it's important that to make sure these funding organizations, banks, and development banks will be successful, our countries cannot, or the entrepreneurs in our countries cannot collect the money from the banks and waste it. We cannot. We cannot collect the money and use it to fund elephant projects. So we use that money to fund projects that will deliver value. That means, yes, as a country, fund essential infrastructure, mostly roads, transport links, and electrification. And like I said in my last video, our countries need to create the environment that will energize entrepreneurship, because it is entrepreneurs that will do the heavy lifting, not governments. All the government needs to do is to create the enabling environment. Okay? Infrastructure, roads, and electrification is part of creating the enabling environment. But most importantly, to remove hurdles, bureaucracy, and allow entrepreneurs of our countries, of Africa, to do the work they're good at. See, I love this page. I will provide a link to this speech. If you haven't watched it, I will encourage you to watch it from beginning to end. It's a good speech. Okay. I really like what all the things he talked about, right? Even though at the end there's some things he talked about that I have a different view, but generally I like to listen to President Ruto. Okay, so please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and put your comments. Let's talk about those things. Okay, all right, thank you, bye.